Tonight's webinar training with special guest Brynley Little, who is the co-founder of Property Developers Academy. With his father, Richard Little, he's a third-generation property developer builder, and he has a training academy helping investors and developers transform their wealth from the inside out. So I'd like to present with you our special guest, Brynley. Good evening, Brynley.
Yeah, good evening, Aziz. Good evening, everybody.
We've got a good turnout tonight, and I think we've got lots of, not tricks in the bag, you've got lots of skills that you can share in your stories. So without further ado, I'll bring it over to you.
Excellent. Yeah, looking forward to delivering some exclusive webinar training, as Aziz mentioned previously. This is the first time that this particular training that I'm via webinar. It's something that I go up and down the country doing a lot of, certainly the back end of last year, and I've got many other events coming up in 2016, telling investors and developers why, if they're not already involved in, and why, if you're not already involved or interested in property development projects, you should be, because 2016 is going to be an absolutely fantastic year for developers. Those of you that are proactive, go out there, learn the systems and the processes that are proven, and go out there and take massive action. And that's exactly what we do within our Property Developers Academy. So without further ado, I'm going to get into our 3-step system to 6-figure profits per deal. Now, I'm sure as we go through, you will have some questions and some queries. So if you want to use the question box on the right-hand side of your screen at any point, feel free to do so. I will try and get through some questions as we go through and see if we've got any time at the end to try and cover your main points that you would like to know about. So, about me, really, very kindly introduced by Aziz. My name's Brynley Little, and I've actually been in property, as it says on your screen, for generations. Our family business, developer's business, was started way back in the 1950s by my grandfather, Anthony Thomas Little. And as we've gone through the generations, it's been passed down to my father and then passed on to myself. It's been an absolute huge game changer for us over the last 3 years, and that's been down to being part of amazing networking groups throughout the country of property investors and property developers. It's really given us the platform to help as many people as we can on their property development journey. As I say, we've been in property for generations, so we've had plenty of successes. But more importantly, we've made plenty of mistakes, and I know that must sound silly to a lot of you, or more importantly, made mistakes rather than successes. But I guess it's more important from your point of view, because we set up our systems and our proven strategies based on the mistakes and the learnings and the lessons that we've been through the generations, so you can build a successful, sustainable development business without too many downsides, trying to minimize the risk and maximize the return in any one given project. So we're certainly not 3 generations of Elvis impersonators, as you can see on the screen there, but I must point out that there is actually a really important message behind the photo that's on your screen. Believe it or not, that photo is the only photo in the world that I have of us 3 generations together, which is quite incredible, really. And it's even more precious to me because last year, unfortunately, my granddad passed away, so we don't have the opportunity to take any more photographs. And my granddad always used to say, you know, make sure you take the opportunities that are passed in front of you. And there's plenty of opportunities that pass us on a daily basis that I know that the majority of us, myself included, sometimes perhaps put off and delay and don't take the opportunities up. But this photo really hits home for me. It allows me to wake up every morning and really make sure I'm making a difference in my life, a positive difference, and a positive difference to everybody else's property journey. So if you get nothing else apart from this one message from this evening's training, I would say that if you get past a a good opportunity passes your nose or is placed in front of you, grab it with both hands, because you don't know when that opportunity may come around again. In planning, land and development, and I'm going to explain to you a little bit later on about what kind of encompasses development. So when people think about developers, they think of new build properties and land and some of the big boys, and anything to do with planning, really. My father, rather than myself, has had sort of 30 plus years experience with planners, and over that time has pretty much seen it all in terms of the different kind of development strategies that you can adopt, the different planning approaches that you can to make sure you're getting the best consents that you can possibly get. And over the years we've built and been involved in quite a few different developments and been involved in the trading of a lot of property. If you're sat there thinking, well, I'm in property, I'm perhaps an investor at the moment, whether you're at the very, very start of your journey, whether that's development or property investing, or is development and taking that stage of your journey to the next level really for you? So I've got a few questions just to ask yourselves. Now, as Aziz said earlier, make sure you take plenty of notes, and perhaps this is an opportunity to answer some of these questions. So property development is for you if you want the choice and the flexibility to go out there and do as you please. Obviously, the tremendous upsides with development is the massive money that's involved. Really, for me, it's all about the freedom that it can give you, and I'll explain a little bit more about that as we go through. If you're interested in having more time, more money, more freedom in your life, any one of those, if you click the raise your hand button on the right hand side of your screen, that would be great. Development can be the vehicle to get you there. If you want to accelerate your property journey, one of we've certainly seen an influx of interest in this area, purely for people to just step it up a notch, change gear, really accelerate their journey to make this year their best year in property so far. Is for you if you want to earn more in one deal than most do in 10. And I know that probably sounds like quite a bold statement to make, but it's absolutely 100% true. It's all about leverage in property development. It involves using a lot of different personnel and specialists, and it often involves quite a lot of time and money input. But the idea of earning more in one deal than most do in 10 is obviously going to be a lot more appealing to people that really want to build successful, sustainable business that are highly leveraged. And it's obviously for you if you're an action taker. Now, I know that they say that the older adage that knowledge is power. We certainly have plenty of knowledge within the development sector, certainly, and that is going to be available to you guys on this training, and for those of you that have perhaps tuned in that have been to some of our training before, or perhaps we will cross paths in the future. But knowledge is knowledge unless people go out there and take action. And it's a great thing for us over the last year, building up our Property Developers Academy and seeing people go out there, use our proven systems, fundamental processes and strategies to really go and make a difference on their journey and make a difference to their lives. It's not for you if you're looking to get into property for quick cash flow. One of the difficulties that you'll come up against as a developer at whatever level is managing your cash flow. Obviously, they say that that passive income strategies such as rent-to-rent, lease options, HMOs, those kind of investment strategies, they're good for passive income. Development and land and planning, good for massive income. But the two fit very, very well together. Now, we have a lot of people come through our doors that are either very, very successful property investors in their own right and have got large portfolios, giving them that background passive income. That allows them the time and the freedom to go and look at these larger projects, more interesting, exciting, lucrative deals. But alternatively, we have people at the very, very start of their journey that see property development as a bit of a launch pad to their property career. Perhaps that's something that you guys could relate to. Earning more than in one deal, earning six-figure plus in one deal, or even just sourcing opportunities. And I'm going to come on to the ways of profiting from these deals a little bit later on. But that can really give you a jump start to build up a cash pot to then go and invest that in building your own portfolio. Years we've been involved in the construction and the development of over 3,000 builds. Mainly my father did the bulk of those, and we're continuing to do that over the last few years as well. They've been pretty much all over the country. A lot of it was down in Hertfordshire and Cambridgeshire, which is where we were originally from. Currently living in Shropshire, so the West Midlands, and at the moment all we deal with is solely joint ventures with investors and developers, and that's great because we get to diversify, work with different people on some tremendous projects all over the country. So just to get the deals that are just illustrated on your screen there. Now, one of the property in the middle of your screen, I don't know if you can make that out, it's actually a church. That's probably our flagship project at the moment. That particular building is in Norwich, in Norfolk, in one of the great areas of Norwich called the Golden Triangle. Now, interestingly, that is a joint venture with somebody who is completely new to development. So if you're sat there thinking, well, development is really great and I really want to earn this kind of money, but I'm not quite there on my property journey, this person, our joint venture partner, it's their first major development, and that particular project we are converting into 20 high-end residential units that we're going to sell to investors and to home buyers, and they vary between 1 unit up to 4 unit townhouses. There's actually a couple of churches on that particular site, and it's a really tremendous project to be involved in. So if they're the kind of things that you enjoy doing, it really gets the blood pumping and it really gets you excited, then they're the kind of projects that you can either go straight in or work up to. Development encompasses all kinds of projects, from single plot builds and small conversions, maybe taking a large house, converting it into 2 or 4 flats, all the way up to multi-unit developments, some of your large sort of new builds, and in some cases combination of new builds and conversions, depending on the types of opportunities that you're looking at. The co-founder, as Aziz mentioned earlier, of PDA, Property Developers Academy. Our academy January last year, so we've just come up to 12 months in business with our training. Now, when we started within our networks, Property Investors Network was the one that we kind of found first, and now we're part of that, and we're part of all different networks and independent networks all over the country, Progressive Property Network, and obviously we've been introduced to Aziz and everybody doing stuff up north as well. And we at the start of that networking and property investors network journey, we never really had the idea that by the end of it, or 3 years later, as it were, that we'd be starting our own training business. And it really come off the back of so many people coming up to us over the past couple of years, wanting to get involved in development projects, but not quite knowing how to go about it and what systems to use. Now, there is a lot of, I'm sure you agree, a lot of easy access to property investing programs and education, some of which Aziz very successfully runs as well. And when you look at development, there isn't really that much access to the relevant information, the relevant guidance that people need to be successful, which I thought was quite strange, and that was really why we started the Academy, to help people on their journey, to make sure that you're minimizing risk and maximizing the results of any one property project, so you can build successful, sustainable property development businesses. And 50 people through our doors of the Academy, and it's been absolutely fantastic to work with and to educate and to network and to connect people that want to be successful in development. Some people have gone all the way from our sort of one-day property development discovery events all the way through to our 3-day Elite Developers Masterclass, and this year's been a great year, and it's going to be a fantastic year because we're running 2 of our Inner Circle mentoring programs with some of the real high achievers out there that really want to go out there and make 2016 their best year in property. How to go about it and the systems and the processes that we use. It's really good to understand why development is so appealing and why people are so interested in either getting involved or why they were interested and got involved previously. We see property development as a natural progression on your property journey. What I consider to be the pinnacle in property, I'm sure you've heard that many times. So, your career, whether that's steel packaging or getting into the sort of low or no money strategies such as lease options and rent to rent, and building momentum, gradually going up the levels, up the gears, maybe investing in their own HMOs, getting involved in some small flips, and at some stage. So what do we mean by big deals and development? Well, any sort of conversion works or renovations, I mean, depending on where you are in the country, if you're spending anything sort of around £50,000 or more on refurbishment, so you're doing substantial works to property, you start getting involved into the realms of property development. So the goalposts do start to change very slightly. So obviously you've got your new build development, which is, I guess, which is what people mainly think of when they think of property developers. So anything with change of use, so taking something from, for example, changing something from a retail to residential, or big commercial buildings and turning them into residential. You can do that with using the planning process, or very popular lately, certainly with office to residential, permitted development, and I'll explain a little bit about that a bit later. The buy-to-let tax and the changing of the legislation that's heavily covered in the media at the moment, whether that's bringing in sort of individual council tax on HMO rooms, and obviously the tax relief on mortgage tax relief on buy-to-let investors, and the increased stamp duty, for example. It's really what we're seeing making investors kind of diversify and look to other ways of making money in property that aren't necessarily as affected. It certainly seems that Mr. Osborne has it in for the buy-to-let investors, but so we're seeing that as well. Development is the way forward. How about increasing your portfolio or building up massive cash reserves and cash pots using development, where you can do it in just one deal? And there's less competition, believe it or not, in development. A lot of people want to get involved in it, but like most things, 95% of people that say they want to get involved and jump in there and really make a difference to their lives and others, say they want to do it and don't necessarily go out there and take the relevant action required, or don't really have the relevant experience or guidance or support network around them. So it really is the 5% that go out there, use proven systems and strategies like I'm going to show you later on, take massive action and really do make a difference. Now, we like to call it a window of opportunity, that you might at this point want to write this down. Now, GDV, gross development value, is the total value of your project when finished, whether you're putting that on the market to sell, for example. Now, we like to operate, and we always advocate that our students and our mentees and all the people that we deal with development should look at the window of opportunity, we call it. Now, the window of opportunity is any projects that fall in between £500,000 GDV all the way up to 7 to 8 million GDV. Now, in some areas, some of your high value areas, that might increase very, very slightly, but the reason we call it a window of opportunity is that anything sort of that kind of level, 500,000 and above, is generally too big for your one-man bands, your builder developers, some of your self-builders, and some perhaps inexperienced investors looking to take those sort of footsteps into development. And at the other end of that scale, 7 or 8 million is generally the figure that you'll find that the sites involved in that window are generally too small for your big boys, so your volume builders, your Taylors, your Persimmons, your Barretts. And that offers a tremendous opportunity for guys just like yourselves to go out there, find those kind of deals, and use the simple systems and processes, because they're exactly the same no matter whether you're looking at a piece of land or a conversion of a large office block to multi-units. But it's the flexibility of development which is the main interest of mine, and certainly is the main interest of a lot of property investors and developers. What do I mean by flexibility? Well, I'm going to show you in a second. Well, obviously the massive money is a given in development. We're talking sort of minimums of £100,000 per deal that you can make. The church development that I mentioned earlier on is in fact going to net just over £800,000. So if that's something that you would like to get involved in, then you're in the right place. Property development has the tremendous opportunity to leave a lasting legacy for others. Now, I was very, very fortunate enough, and I'm fortunate enough to be in a great position now where that lasting legacy in terms of experience and education has been passed down in the generations in my family. And we've now got the platform to pass that on to you guys, so you can build a legacy for your future generations and many others out there. And there is opportunity absolutely everywhere. Now, I'm sure you pass opportunities on a daily basis, whether that's on the market or simply just driving around. And it's about identifying the opportunities and feeding them into your pipeline. We look at development as a business rather than deal by deal, because it's a bit of a numbers game, really. We tend to work on a ratio. We're fortunate enough it's a bit better than this now, but we will always say that if you can find 10 genuine good opportunities, there'll be a deal in there somewhere. So you might have to wait a bit, and you might have to spend a bit of time on some of these opportunities, but there will be a deal if you stick at it. And then obviously you can use it to fund investments. So as I mentioned earlier, you might see it as building a bit of a cash pot and then going to invest in HMOs or serviced accommodation or whatever it may be, single let, buy to lets. What do I mean by flexibility in development? Well, traditionally developers are seen as traders. So obviously you've got your trade strategy, so you build or you buy rather, or you control a plot of land or a building. Then you build or you convert, and then you sell on for a profit. that is obviously your trade strategy. But now, what we're finding that's very, very appealing to a lot of property investors mainly is the hold strategy, so a build to let strategy. And I'm going to explain a little bit about that a bit later on. But the build to let strategy is a way of dramatically increasing your portfolio using just one deal. So leaving the profits that if you were to trade, you would be left with in the deal, leveraging that against some buy-to-let mortgages and retaining the units to rent out and earn cash flow. And then you've also got the opportunity to invest in development projects. We talk about quite large amounts of money, you know, £100,000 plus per deal. Now, that obviously means that there's a lot more in the pot to share around and to get more investors involved. Now, what that gives you an advantage over a lot of smaller investors and some of the other investing strategies is that you're often able to be able to offer investors a better interest rate. So it's really good of building up a pool of investors to spread the reward of any one project. Oh, yeah, it's all well and good, but it's a bit of a leap of faith. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to take the leap of faith. Well, you have to take the opportunity when it presents itself, and it may seem like a leap of faith, but if you go about it the right way, using the right systems, working with the right people, it can be very, very manageable. Very little bit about my journey, really. I started in properties in my blood, obviously through the generations, but the lion's share of my experience over the past sort of 10 years has been actively involved on site. So I was a building contractor for 8 years as part of our contracting business, and from there had a sort of a light bulb moment about 3 years ago when I found myself working on a building site in the winter time in -14. So you guys think it's cold at the moment out there. It's about 0 degrees where I am. -14 on a building site working by yourself is not fun, believe me. And it was a real crystallizing moment for me back then, because I realized that there was more to life than working, you know, your 8 till 5 every day, working paycheck to paycheck. And I realized that I wasn't really using my position, my background, my knowledge to its foremost. So I did some research, and I found out about Property Investors Network and the various networks across the country, and I decided to jump in. And 3 years later, we've had some training ourselves and had various mentors, and still got business mentors to this day, pushing us to be as best as we can be. And now we've started the training business, and we're mentoring other people on their property development journey, which is a fantastic thing. So the stage, so it's a pretty dramatic difference there. Window of opportunity. Now, the way that we set up our business and the tremendous upsides that you can get involved in property development allows you to do anything that you possibly want, whether that's spending money on material things, whether that's increasing your portfolio, investing in other assets, traveling the world, for example, helping other people, setting up charitable foundations and that kind of thing. You can do anything that it is that you would love to do. Now, I'm very, very fortunate enough to have visited the place that's on your screen now. I actually sat on the end of that rock. That's actually called God's Window in South Africa, and property development has allowed me to do that, knowing that our business is still working as and when I travel around the world, and that can do just the same for you. The development business are split into 6 areas. First, you've got obviously sourcing, so site finding, you know, finding the opportunities, filling that funnel. Then moves on to the most important part of development, full stop, and that's called the appraisal process. That's where we're doing the deal on paper to find out which deals to invest more money and more time in to move forward on. We've then got planning and scheme design, so planning and design. We've got to raise some finance at some part of the process. Now, there's various different ways that you can raise finance. We tend to work with private investors. The church project in particular, we have private investors on board that have become part of that, and they get a great return on their investment, but they also get a structured educational program that they can see a project of that size and that nature from its very, very beginning, which it is at now, all the way to its end, which is roughly going to be about 15 months' time. So if that's something that you may be interested involved in, then perhaps drop me an email at some point. My contact details will be on the end of these of this presentation. Also got the construction period, so the main, the build, where you get the spade in the ground and things start to happen and take shape. So we look at the sort of procurement and management methods of that process. And exit strategies, so starting with the end in mind, and I'm going to touch on them a little bit later in more detail. Process, the SAS system. Now, for various reasons. Now, one of which is that the SAS, the Special Air Service, they're seen as the elite, the best of the best. You know, they go through a rigorous training process. They really work hard to get where they are. They're dedicated, and failure is not an option. And it's exactly the same from that point of view in the developers world. So we want you to become elite property developers, and by using this system, that if you throw yourself 100% into it and you are persistent and you trust the system, you will be successful. So the first step of our three-step system is, so first step is source. Now, to generating six-figure profits per deal. So those of you that are listening, if you want that to be your very next deal, which I'm sure many of you would, then I'm going to go through some sourcing strategies with you now, and some key criteria, so you can go out there tomorrow and put this knowledge into action and really start building that pipeline. So with sourcing strategies, you can either go for something like a property type as your strategy, so having sort of a laser focus towards a different type of property, whether that be residential or commercial, and you can go even more niche into that. So I know a popular strategy is finding closed down pubs, for example, and converting those, or looking to convert those into residential units. Secondly, you've got development type, so you could be looking either to do new build development or conversion. Typically we find that investors and people looking to make that transition into development like to take on conversion projects over new builds just as a stepping stone. Now, that's probably because obviously there's a build in there, you're used to seeing property, you're used to doing refurbishment works to your portfolio properties and converting sort of residential dwellings into HMOs, that kind of thing. And it's almost the next step as converting a property into flats and then moving from there and so on. So you don't really see, we don't see too many people going straight into new build, although new build is our preferred area. 90% of our experience, the 3,000 plus units, has been new build, with 10% conversions. But as somebody said on one of our recent discovery days, 10% of 3,000 plus units is still 300 conversions. So we kind of, even though we see it as a minor part of our business, it's quite a significant amount of experience in that area as well. So thirdly, you've got an end user strategy. Now, this might be looking to target specific user groups. So, for example, social housing. Now, many developers, myself included, mainly like to get involved in the production and the creation of high-end property. You know, really good quality property, high spec, high value, high figures, and that opens up tremendous opportunities in the lower value developments, so targeting specifically for social housing, for example. Now, as I say, majority of developers are looking elsewhere, so this could be a real opportunity for you guys to go out there and find these kind of projects. Now, typically, we would be looking at for sort of social housing on the fringes of your lower value areas, wherever you are based. So any opportunities there can work very, very well, and in many cases these are the types of opportunities that will work very, very well from a build to hold point of view. And number 4 is a geographical strategy. Now, this one's highlighted because this is the one that we would suggest that you should go out there and adopt. Getting to know an area very well is the key, having that local knowledge. We work in joint ventures all over the country with people, but we only work in joint ventures with people that have got tremendous local knowledge in that particular area, because a lot of the background information that you may have to do, like reading your local development plan, for example, so I'll take this opportunity to write that down as well, perhaps put it as an action list. If those of you that haven't or don't know what a local development plan is, you can find them on your local authority website, and it basically outlines what's going to happen or what's planned to happen in your local area, generally over the next sort of 20 years in so many cases. And there's some real important information there about how the local authority sees the area, sees where it's going to likely to expand, what's going to come into the local area, and that has a tremendous effect on what we're looking to develop and the profitability and viability of some of the projects. So having a great understanding of your local plan is absolutely imperative. Now, because the three-step strategy is the same, and the process from finding opportunities to taking them all the way through to having something of value is the same, that we would always suggest adopting a geographical strategy and not targeting specific types of properties, for example, as I mentioned earlier, pubs, because you're almost putting blinkers on and going straight for those opportunities and missing out on everything that's in the surrounding local area. Now, it's great to have a personal strategy, so you might be sat there thinking, yeah, well, I want to get involved in new build developments, or I want to get involved in converting office space into residential dwellings. That's absolutely fantastic, but if you want to make your development business as profitable as possible, you want to be looking at all the other opportunities in your local area and profiting from them, whether that's sourcing them on to somebody else, and I'll come on to that a little bit later. In our sourcing part of our three-step system, we have a key criteria. Now, the key criteria of finding the best deals. Now, it doesn't mean that if you find a deal and it doesn't fall in between these 5 key criteria, it doesn't make it a bad deal. It just means if you can find opportunities that fit all these 5 key criteria that I'm going to go through, you're really onto a winner. So number 1, we've got direct to vendor, and I'm sure like me you're familiar with this term, and your experience in dealing a lot with direct to vendor opportunities, whether that be investment properties or in some cases some of you development as well. But direct to vendor opportunities offer you tremendous flexibility in terms of the way that you can structure deals and put deals together. Property development and property in general really isn't a bricks and mortar business. It's all about relationships and creating that real strong connection with people, understanding what they really need, what they want, and building that relationship over time. people go out there and try and short circuit this process, will often find themselves in hot water. We'll often find that deals often fall out of bed at the very, very last minute. So it's very much a case of investing time in the front end to really make the back end worthwhile. Now, number two is off market. Now, generally, if you're looking at direct to vendor opportunities, mainly these will be off market. The best way of finding off market opportunities is going out there on the ground yourself, walking the streets mainly, or getting out there on a bike, for example, and spotting them yourself, making that direct to vendor contact, and then following and building that relationship up until you can create that real win-win situation. Now, you can be successful in finding on-market opportunities, but what we would like to do from that point is, if you see something that's on-market, we want to try and get that off-market as early as possible. And the way that you can do that is with an exclusivity in place. Now, whether you're direct to vendor or you're going through an agent, these exclusivity periods can be negotiated. Now, we would look to negotiate a period of exclusivity of between 6 and 8 weeks. Now, this is a psychological connection, really. It's a psychological barrier that you must break through between yourself and the vendor. Now, it can be done with maybe an option agreement, for example. It is typically done with just a letter, exclusivity letter or template. And in some cases, depending on the relationship that you built up with the vendor, it can often be done on just a simple handshake. Now, we build an exclusivity period in place in order for us to conduct the relevant research to find out whether it's a good opportunity or not. And I'll explain a little bit about that in our second step of our 3-step process. We're looking for pre-planning opportunities, so sites that don't have planning permission, or sites that do have planning but they have the wrong planning. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, you may have seen, I'm sure some of you have, opportunities that are on market, on Rightmove or in your local estate agency that have planning permission on them that have perhaps been on the market for maybe 18 months to 2 years. And that's not surprising. That's mainly because either they're priced too highly, which isn't necessarily a surprise, or more importantly, they've got the wrong planning permission on them. Now, that might be it's too long in the sense to go through to this evening with you, but in a quick example, somebody might get planning on something that they know that's going to pass through planning very, very easily, because then they want to sell that on to somebody, make a quick profit, and move on. Now, there might not necessarily be the demand for that type of unit in that area, and that's the reason why they stick on the market. So in that instance, we would look at the opportunity as a blank sheet of paper and see what planning we can negotiate, so get the best consents, add the most value, and build in a healthy profit. And often people don't tend to look at it that way. So if you see any sites that have got planning on them that have been on the market for a very, very long time, perhaps make that connection, make that contact with the agent, and see whether you can get an exclusivity period on it. The most important is an underdeveloped opportunity, so somewhere where you can add significant value, whether that's building new or creating more units out of a larger property, for example. You will have noticed on the screen it says ABS, something to write down. Obviously, we're all very, very busy in our property businesses, and some of you that are perhaps working full-time and do property as a bit of a hobby at the moment, but have that aspiration to move into it full-time. Always be sourcing. Always be sourcing. So if you're out and about, walking the dogs, going through town, whatever it may be, try and build in that time that your radar is never switched off to opportunity. As I say, development is a numbers game. It's about filling that pipeline. So identify some opportunities at every opportunity that you can, and just feed them through into your pipeline, and we'll see what we can get out at the end. I hope that makes sense. On to our second step in our elite system is the most important part of development, full stop. This is where we do the deal on paper, because I'm sure you'd agree that it's easier to lose money on paper than it is in real life. Absolutely right. Now, this is a filtering process. So this is where we will perhaps, firstly, during the appraisal process, we will do an initial assessment of an opportunity. This might be when we're looking around it. So a lot of it's desk research. Generally takes 2 to 3 hours for us to make sure, find out the relevant information and research to find out whether it's worth taking through to the next stage, which is a pre-planning assessment. Now, during a pre-planning assessment, this is where we are looking at the opportunity from a planning perspective. So what we'll be able to negotiate, perhaps. So we'll be looking at the local plan, we'll perhaps be trying to talk to your local authority, looking at various sort of planning applications that have been put in the local area, just to see what is possible. Then it's sort of like a traffic light system, really. You start sort of getting the amber or green lights from that point of view. You move on to the third step, which is the full development appraisal. Now, we have created a system called the 8 pillars. Now, this is where we go through all the 8 areas on your screen. So anything from demand, planning, funding, deal structure, legals, construction, costs, and exit routes. So we assess all the 8 areas to understand whether the opportunity that we're looking at is a good deal or not, or whether it's a deal or whether it isn't. And that will, the focus of the appraisal will vary depending on the size of project that you may be working on. So larger units, if you're looking at multi-unit projects, there's a lot of economies of scale when looking at the costs involved. So that very much focus will be down towards the demand side of things. And for your smaller projects, demand isn't necessarily an issue because, you know, we might be able to shift 1 or 2 or 3 units fairly easily. So our focus is more geared towards the costings and building in that, making sure we've got that margin in there. But we should always start with the end in mind. Look at the exit routes. Now, this is where you can build maximum profitability of your development business. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you may have a personal strategy that you want to build apartments and you want to sell them on for a profit and keep the profit for yourselves and move on to the next project. But what other opportunities are you missing? Now, if you're adopting a geographical strategy, this opens up all the exit routes that are available. So first we have sourcing, which is a way of generating fees. Now, this can be a really great way of getting involved in development if you're quite new. And it's certainly a way of building up a bit of a cash pot and gaining experience in knowing what to look for and how to package deals. Now, typically you'd be looking at achieving a sourcing fee of between 2 and 3% of the site value. So, you know, you can earn quite a lot of money, substantial amounts of money, just by sourcing development opportunities. Moving on, you've got a planning gain exit strategy. Now, those who aren't familiar with what planning gain is, this is where we will source an opportunity that hasn't got planning or has got the wrong planning, as I mentioned earlier. We would negotiate a planning consent, uplifting the value, and then we would look to sell on to a developer so they can build it out and sell it and make their profit, and we make that margin in the middle. Because by far and large in the development process, the most value added is in the planning process. Now, this has been quite a popular strategy over the last sort of 12 to 18 months. I'm sure some of you have seen these kind of opportunities, or maybe even had the opportunity to invest in these kind of deals. Now, I would just like to make a point that just to be careful with this using this strategy. Don't bite off more than you can chew. So in other words, don't be too greedy. Don't take all the profit out for the developer, because after all, they're the risk taker. They're the one who's putting in substantial amounts of money, building these units, and then looking to sell them further on down the line. So it can be a very, very good strategy with fairly low investment and some good returns available. So that's always an option as well. Obviously got your develop and sell strategy, which is your trade strategy, and that's the most popular of the lot, obviously making huge amounts of money in one go. The problem there is obviously managing your cash flow. So with development, certainly from developing to sell, you've got to finance quite substantial amounts. So it's very much money out, money out, money out, money out, money in, right at the end. So when we sold generally the last few units on the development, which is where the profit is locked into. Now, in order to manage that cash flow and to build in those that maximum profitability, you want to build a pipeline where you've got deals in your pipeline that have different exit routes. So you might be waiting for the slow burn, the develop and sell deals that are going through your pipeline, and in the meantime sourcing some others, selling them on to other investors, bringing some cash into the business to ease your cash flow, maybe doing some planning gain. And then maybe if you're looking to increase your portfolio, which is something that certainly I'm looking to do locally this year, is a build to let strategy, so your hold strategy, which I mentioned earlier. Now, this is what we like to call a no money left in portfolio builder strategy. So that's a no money left in portfolio building strategy. Now, if you're familiar with the momentum investing strategy of buying, refurbishing, then getting your revaluation and refinancing, and then repeating that onto the next one. So you're using the same pot of cash over and over and over again and retaining the units and building up your strategy that way. Now, this is a way of doing that 10, 15, 20 times over in one deal. So leaving your profits in, leveraging that against mortgages and buy-to-let mortgages, retaining the units, and then moving on to the next development opportunity and perhaps doing the same. It's often a really good way if you're dealing direct to vendor with maybe instead of buying the land from them, for example, maybe you structure a deal where they get left with X amount of units at the end. It can be very, very tax efficient for them as well. The third and final step of our elite system is secure. We've appraised it, we found out it's a great deal, now we want to go and secure it. So the value of it is, and the only way that we can understand the value is by going through the 8 pillars of the appraisal, as I mentioned. Now, has anybody heard of the third rule of thumb? So that's third for the land, third for the build, and a third for the profit. Now, amazingly, this is still bounded around, certainly in some of the sort of circles, the investor circles, and a lot of professionals still talk about it, certainly some of the uneducated agents out there, and a lot of vendors still think that their land is worth a third of the GDV. In reality, it doesn't work. The only real way of value by doing what we call a residual valuation. Now, residual valuation is taking the total GDV, the total gross development value, and taking away all the costs, and I've underlined all the costs, so we're not just talking about build costs now. So there might be, depending on the size of your development, there might be some Section 106, some developer contributions like community infrastructure levy. There's all sorts. You've got the cost of setting up your special purpose vehicles and your development businesses. Various different costs involved there, far and large more than just the build cost. Minus your profit. After all, we're all in it for a bit of profit, right? That's where you equal your site value. Now, by going through the 8 pillars of the appraisal, hopefully during an exclusivity period, you're able to come up with a relevant site valuation, realistic, and a good way of structuring a deal and moving forward with the vendor, or certainly processing the deal through an agent as well. Everybody with me so far? Great. So, without this 3-step system, do you think that you'd be able to be successful? So that's perhaps a question to ask. And have you seen other developers and other investors that have successfully done developments without using this 3-step approach? I'm sure you have. And ultimately, of course, you can be successful without it. But are you taking on any unnecessary risk? The whole system that we've put in place is there so you can minimize the risk and maximize the return of any given project. The issue with the motivation to get involved in development, a lot of people want to source opportunities and go out there and secure them straight away and make loads of money. What you essentially become there is a motivated buyer. Obviously, we've heard of the motivated sellers, and it's no different in development. We're looking for motivated sellers of commercial opportunities. But it's great to have that motivation. After all, you've got to have the motivation to be successful in any business, and persistence. But all I would say is direct the motivation to using the right principles, the right processes, and working with the right people. So hopefully, going through those systems and processes that we've perfected over the years that are proven. And a lot of people are going out there and using these processes now through our academy and implementing them in their areas and in their businesses, are being very successful as well. Will give you the idea that you can go out there and accelerate your journey. So if you are an action taker, property journey, you want to grow your business, you want that flow to hold, to invest. Your people's experience. We've got 40 years experience in this industry, 3,000 plus builds. It's there for you to leverage. We'd love to help you out on your journey. Of that elite, you know, the SAS, the elite developers, you want to be part of that, then use these systems and these processes. More time and more freedom in your life, then development is certainly the go. Obviously, if you want to leave a lasting legacy, it's a tremendous opportunity to do so. I'm sure many of you want to earn between £100,000 and £1 million plus per deal. Then developments for you, Faith. How does it look now that you understand it a little bit better? Well, using these systems, using that 3-step system, yes, that's exactly what we've done with Property Developers Academy. Systemizing the business, giving you more confidence, more clarity, that safety net, so you can go out there and really make a difference to you, your business, your relationships, your world, basically. Is the time to do it. Now, those of you that are pretty good at conundrums and anagrams, you may have spotted that on your screen there, my ideal time, or there's a hidden word in there. After all, everybody write down on your piece of paper, my ideal time. Well, when is your ideal time to go out there and take action? Immediately. So hopefully I've given you some really good pointers and some tips to go out there and perhaps tomorrow start filling that pipeline up. But most importantly, take action immediately. Go out there and really invest in yourself, invest time, invest money in yourself, get the right people around you, whether that's through Property Developers Academy or any experienced developers in your local area. Build that power team around you, but take massive action and do it immediately. And journey. I've been privileged to be part of this online training that Aziz put on for you this evening.
Thank you.
And I'd love to, no problem at all, Aziz. And if you've got value and you think, yeah, this development thing is something that I really want to jump into and know a little bit more about. After all, it's very, very difficult to get 40 years worth of experience across in 55 minutes to an hour. So why don't you come along to one of our property development discovery days. Now, unfortunately, next weekend, Saturday the 30th of January, is sold out. It's going to be our biggest event that we've ever done since starting the Academy, which is great because we're seeing a lot more investors see the results that people are getting and coming in and wanting to know how to go about it. But our next one for you guys coming up is on Saturday the 2nd of April in Heathrow. So wherever you're based, it could be quite close, it could be quite far. Either way, it's going to be well worth the trip to come down and spend Saturday the 2nd of April with us. Now, we do have limited places available. I'm speaking at quite a lot of events in the lead up to that, so we are on course to sell out. We've already taken a lot of bookings already due to the popularity. Now, that's available for you guys for $697 plus the VAT. Find out on Property Development Discovery. Well, it's unrivaled knowledge and experience in the industry. There is a 100% money-back guarantee as well. So if you decide to buy now and you don't feel that you got value at the end of the training, we'll let you keep absolutely everything, and we'll give you your 100% of your money back. So it really is a no risk opportunity to come and learn more about the development process. So we're going to teach you the 6 stages of the multi-million-pound development business. So the 6 areas that I discussed a little bit earlier on. Haven't had time to go into them all tonight, but we're going to go through all of those on our Discovery Day. The 22 different site finding strategies. Now, some of these are very, very easy. You can go out there, implement them straight away, and some of them are a bit more advanced. You've got the 8 pillars to the perfect preparation, so the 8 pillars of our appraisal. We're going to go through each area in turn and give you some real tips and pointers in how to assess your development deals. The opportunity to leverage our knowledge and experience. Unfortunately, Richard couldn't be with us on the broadcast this evening and on this training, but he is going to be there. Myself and Richard run these events as well, and it's a fantastic opportunity not only to learn the development business, but to network with like-minded individuals. So you can minimize your risk and maximize your returns in your development business. We're all about promoting successful, sustainable businesses, growing something now that we know is stable and there's less risk involved. So you can earn between £100,000 and £1 million plus per deal, and that could be your very next deal, and 2016 could be your best year in property. I'm sure it will be if you adopt these processes. April in Heathrow, and to give back to the action takers that go and take this opportunity up, and to say thank you to Aziz for including me on this training. We've got a special offer of £197 plus VAT, so that's £236.40 for those of you that are trying to work that out in your heads right now. And that's all you've got to do to get this offer is to email YPMoffer and your name to info@propertydevelopersacademy.com. So that's 197 for this course. It's usually £697 plus the VAT. YPM offer and your name to info@propertydevelopersacademy.com. training, I am going to leave you with a quote that really is the ethos behind our academy, and that is: coming together is a beginning, staying together is progress, working together is success. I wish each and every one of you the very best on your property journey. I'm sure our paths will cross at some stage, and good luck for 2016. I hope you make it the best year in property so far. I've been Brynley Little, Property Developers Academy. My contact details, email address on the bottom of your screen now. Hope to see some of you guys very, very soon.
Thank you, Bryn. Thank you to each and every one of you that have joined myself and Bryn on tonight's training session. As has been mentioned before, any questions you want to ask, feel free to fire any questions just before we end this training tonight. Whilst you do have the opportunity, I must say it's absolutely fantastic value having access to people who are actually not necessarily training, but they're actually doing the developing. So this is an opportunity where it's an experiential training, as Bryn and his father, Richard Little, have had hands-on experience for over 4 decades, 3 generations. You are accessing them based not on theory, based on results. And finally, if you have any of the questions you want to contact, you can connect with myself directly, Aziz at azizpatel.com, or contact the company where we connect entrepreneurs to experts, which is hello@success.events. But just to wrap up tonight's training, any final words that you'd like to say, Bryn?
Just thank you very much for firstly to you, Aziz, for giving me the platform to give hopefully some words of wisdom to many of you out there, and thank you to everybody that attended and everyone that will listen in to this training, giving up, investing time mainly, because that's the major investment that we've got, because we don't get our time back. So invest in time so you can have that time and freedom going forward. So just like to say thank you very much.
Super. And on a final note, one of the things you find most people, they've been taught using a process what's been taught in the 19th century, back in the days of the Victorian era, when you had the industrialization, where people were taught to conform. And unfortunately, we live in an education system that's still locked in, where people are adapting the process of what's called passive learning, whereby information is being taken in, but it's not being followed through. How have you found over the years that you've been working, what separates somebody who is successful? What makes them different when they come to an academy and learn through the likes of yourself and the team within Property Developers Academy? What makes a difference in allowing them to succeed rather than going along the journey by themselves, Bryn?
I think that's a great question, Aziz. And to be fair, I would put it down to the most people that we see that are really committed to their own success have a real big reason why they want to do it, why you want to wake up early, why you want to have those sleepless late nights, take action on all the information and experience and contacts that we give you, and that many other people connect with as well. It's having that strong reason why, whether that's creating that legacy, whether that's dedicating more time to your relationships and your family life, or whether that's just earning money to go out there and travel the world or do whatever it is that people want to do. It's like you say, it's one thing learning and listening to information, it's another thing going out there and really utilizing it and making it count. And the ones that do go out there and are really persistent are the ones that are in that top 5% that we all wish, those that the 95% wish they could be in.
Brilliant. So the whole experience, success is a journey and not a destination.
Absolutely right.
Thank you, Bryn. Thank you, guys.